Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another episode of Boards and Brews. And today, I am joined by Grant Lyon, who is going to talk with us a bit about getting into the hobby and one of our favorite ridiculous games. But before we can do any of that, Grant, what are you drinking?
Hey, first of all, thanks for having me. Much appreciated. Happy to be here. I am drinking a California brewery called Anderson Valley up in Northern California. It's in Mendocino, but I love a lot of their beers. And today, in particular, I am drinking Huge Arker. It's a bourbon barrel imperial stout that is 13.5% alcohol. So if I am tipsy by the end of this, it is not my fault.
So we're going to go on a real big tangent in the middle, so you
Yeah.
have to refill a couple times.
Yeah, totally.
But
So I will say I'm a big beer snob sort of at this point in my life. You know, if somebody tries to hand me like a Bud Light, I'll slap it onto the ground.
Now,
I'm
now,
willing.
now, I'm going to have to call you out based on what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Did you or did you not do a big old commercial for one of those beers?
Hey, yes, but
But
that's
that
me as
beer's
an
good.
actor.
That
Yeah.
one's good.
Yeah. Well, Sam Adams also is better than like the Bud Lights of the world and stuff like that. So it's not a craft beer. That's the thing that gets me when they're trying to be like, we're a craft beer, and you're like, what? That is in every bar in America? I don't think you get to qualify as a craft beer anymore.
We should
Uh,
try to sell Sam Adams that soundbite. Sam Adams is not as bad as
yeah,
Bud Light.
it's true. But you know what? If you're going to pay me a bunch of money to act in your commercial, I will do a commercial for pretty much whatever.
So, any publishers watching, send him your garbage. He
Yep.
will make it look
Yep.
good.
You pay me enough, I will do it.
And I have a also local California brewery, Fort Point. I have Animal, their tropical IPA, which is a new one to me. I hadn't
Ooh.
had this one. I just found it, but it's got a lovely, lovely color there.
Tropical, is it fruity at all? Or is it just sort of bright and crisp?
More bright and crisp. Like there's
Okay.
a hint of something in there, but
Yeah.
it's not like you squeeze your orange into a blue moon or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, just a hint.
I
But
I've gotten to become a big brewery person because in the before times when I was traveling a lot for comedy, breweries kind of became my coffee shops where they always have like a chill vibe. You can go in there, bring your laptop. I'll get a flight and just sit in there and work by myself for like a couple hours and just try a bunch of their beers.
we don't have a ton of ones that are particularly great around here. Like, I mean, we have Gordon beer shoes, but that's eh,
Yeah,
it's fine. But when we have some friends down in San Diego, when we go down there, there's always
totally.
really cool spots to hang out at.
We have a lot of good ones in Los Angeles too, where I'm at. And in fact, we actually even have, I'm drinking a barrel aged one here. We have a brewery called Celador that only does barrel aged, all different types of barrel aged. They have got like 30 different types of barrel aged beers on tap. I think I'm at the point too where because I've had so much beer and tried so much different beer around the country when I'm traveling and stuff, now I've got to the point where I like the weirder stuff. When you take a big swing, I'm on board, right? Like, because I'm like, well, I've tried so many different types of beer. I want to try something different. What
So,
can you do that
so you're
nobody's
that dude
done
who's going to
before?
drink the avocado beer.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
You're
I
a
will try
monster.
it. Yeah. I would. Hey, I'm not saying I will always enjoy it, but I'll tell you, there's a brewery in Southern Oregon in Medford, small brewery called Portal Brewing, and I don't think any of their beer gets outside of Oregon. And they did one of the favorite beers I've ever tried. And when I say it, you're like, that's doing too much. And I agree. It sounds like it's doing way too much, and I loved it. It was a cherry vanilla chocolate milk stout. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. That sounds weird. I'll try it. And boy, did I love
Oh,
it.
if
Yeah.
you're just listening, you can. The face that you made is the face that I made.
Yeah. Yeah. But it worked. That's what I mean. It's like, That didn't sound good to me, but I'm like, that seems like a big swing. I'll try it out,
Uh,
and I loved it.
it didn't work. You just you're just so deep into it. You're like, no, no one can know.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
one can know this is the worst decision I've made in my life.
Yeah.
Worst decision I made since I left medical school. All right, but the rapid fire questions.
Yes.
Who the crap are you? What is your channel? What is your shtick? And how and why did you get started reviewing games?
Yeah, well, to start, I am a comedian and have been a comedian for a long time. I started when I was in college at UC Santa Cruz, was in the Bay Area scene of comedy for a while. That went well enough, came down to Los Angeles, and I've been making a living as a stand-up comedian slash, actor writer for a long time now, like 15 years. I've been doing stand-up. Um, and during the pandemic, I'm also somebody who loves board games and has for many years. And during the pandemic, when all of my shows got canceled and my career kind of ceased to exist the way I knew it, I was looking for a way to be creative and to keep up my creative juices. And I was like, oh, I'll start making some board game content. And I think with anything, you bring who you are into the content that you make and your experiences and your talents and that sort of stuff. And so, for me, comedy is about being funny, a big surprise. And it's also about like brevity. And so that was kind of what I brought into the board game content that I'm making. I think of them as short and funny videos, right?
My favorite thing about it is the massive pair of dice you got because you label them as funny
Oh,
board
yeah.
game review. Because I go on, I'm like, all right, mother effer,
Yeah.
tell me it's funny. You don't tell me what I think's funny. But if anybody who hasn't checked them out, there'll be a link down in the description. But I'm going to recommend go for the ones where he plays different characters.
Those are pretty fun.
Those are
Those are
on point.
silly. Yeah.
Those are my favorite. The best one if you can find the one where he shaved.
Yep, yep, that one is pretty. I mean, that one was pretty epic because it just had 6 months of prop work that went into it by having a 6 month beard that I got rid of during the video. But that's what I mean. That's like to me, I'm like, okay, hopefully this is a place. My videos are a place where you can come get a recommendation for a game that you don't know about, or get a laugh about a game you do already know about.
Who's roughly your target audience? You think, as far as the gaming community goes, right?
Yeah, I would say that casual gamers are my target audience. These are people that like games, play games, but aren't sitting down and I'm not going to make a video for Sleeping Gods. I mean, everybody is talking about how great that game is, and I trust that that's a good game, but I don't have the patience to play a campaign game like that. And I don't think that someone that is looking for that type of game is watching a 2 minute video, right? That's not where they're going. They want to see a 2 hour
3 minute video.
playthrough. Yeah, they want to see a 2 hour playthrough to see, okay, is this the game for me, sort of thing. So I definitely think I'm like casual gamers. Hopefully, I can, and I know people that are watching my stuff that are coming to me from comedy that aren't gamers that have bought games because I've recommended them. So I think I'm getting some of those. And then hopefully I do have some serious gamers that are just like, oh, I just like it because the entertainment value. I'm not watching his videos because I need recommendations for a new game. I'm going to plenty of other places for that. But, I might get a laugh. And so that's why I'm going there.
Hey, I came for his analysis of War and Peace,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I stayed for the
yeah.
poop jokes.
Exactly. That's the thing. I'm being silly and I mean that's one of the things for me too about games is I don't take games that seriously. I love games, but there's a lot of people that take it very seriously, and I'm like, in the end, I'm like, this is a game. Like we're having fun. The point of this is to be fun, and there's a lot of different ways to have fun, and I acknowledge that. Like I'm not just saying party games because playing a game that has interesting choices and strategy is fun to me and to a lot of people. But in the end, I don't want to take it that seriously.
Yeah, so you're saying we're not going to see a 20-part series on feudum from you?
No.
No, I tell you though, I would watch.
Yeah,
I would
just to
watch
see
you
what
try
I
to
would
muddle
do.
your way. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't want to muddle my way through that game. I'm told
yeah.
if someone understands how to play, you can learn to play in 45 minutes. Learn to
Dude,
play.
I mean, learn to play. That's crazy to me. Like, well, I also, it's partly colored by who I'm playing games with. I'm playing games mostly with other comedians who play games with me, but it's not like they're going out and playing games all the like if I have to do more than 15 minutes to explain a game, there's no way. I'll never get them to stop telling bits and telling jokes for long enough to pay attention to an explanation. You
That's why.
know?
Yeah, there was. I've told this story on the episode so before, but I was at a convention and my buddy really wanted to play John Company, which is kind of that's a complicated game.
Yeah.
And this, there's like five of us, and this guy we never met. He's teaching it, and we are half an hour into this rules explanation. I didn't want to be there anyway, but we're half an hour in, and somebody comes like, "Oh, you're playing John Company? Oh, I've always wanted to try that." And that bastard goes, "Oh, you want to come in? We can start over."
Ah! And you're
And
like, I think I might punch somebody.
I will flip this table if he says yes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
there's going to be violence. Like he said, "Oh no, no, no! I have a scheduled game of whatever."
Yeah.
I was trying to
I
come up with the most ridiculous game I could think of, and nothing came. Nothing.
I will say, if we think about sort of the BGG complexity scale, I'm never going over a 3. Like, I'm totally happy with stuff that hits that up to 3 mark, like I'm looking at like a near and far right now on my shelves. Like that's fairly complex, but it's also something that I can teach to somebody in 10 or 15 minutes and we can be on board.
Yeah.
And one map of it takes what 90 minutes, so I can easily break it up. I don't have any patience longer than like 2 hours, because if I have people over for 4 hours that are interested in playing games, do I want to play one game for 4 hours or do I want to play three different games while everybody's over? I'm always going to choose the three different games because I want everybody to find something that they enjoy, right? It's like, to me, that's one of the things where I want people to enjoy their experiences. I want people to enjoy their game nights. And if we play one game and somebody really didn't like that game and that's the only game we're playing, well, now that guy just had a bad night. But if I'm playing three different games, yeah, maybe you didn't like one of them, but you really love the other two, and now you're going home happy.
Yeah. If he didn't like any of those three, then he can
Yeah.
leave.
And if you didn't like any of those three, he's not invited back to game nights.
Yeah.
All right.
He wanted
Yeah.
to. He just came for some beer and he got stuck.
Yeah. You're too hard to please. No, thank you. Get out.
All right,
You
but
know?
so jumping into
Uh,
the actual discussion here, because we I don't know, what are we, an hour in? We haven't even we've done
yeah.
nothing. Which is for anybody who has ever been in the performing arts. This is called rehearsal without a stage manager.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You just going until we need. There's no one here saying, yeah, we actually have to do something.
Yeah. We don't have an assistant director on set pushing us along.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Comedians, if you're like, you have a microphone and you're allowed to talk, oh, yes, please let me do it.
Okay,
That's
how
the
does that
funny.
work when you're actually up there? Like, is there like a flashing light where like, okay,
There is a light that comes on. Normally, a comedy club will ask you at what time do you want a light. Oftentimes if I'm headlining the club, I'm doing like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. I'll ask for a light at 40 minutes, right? So I know, okay, I'm getting close. I should start thinking about wrapping it up, but it's not like I gotta just get off stage right then, right? So it's basically just sort of a line of demarcation where now if you're doing a shorter set, you're doing a 7-minute set on some show here in Los Angeles, they're giving you a 1-minute light. You see that light, you got to wrap up the joke you're on or tell one more very quick one, and that's it.
yeah, yeah,
Because
because because you always see, on the TV shows or whatever, like they got the bad guy back there flashing the light,
yeah,
and if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing really bad, they flash it faster.
Oh, totally. Well, and one of the hardest things is when you're on stage. There have been times where, like, one of the last headlining shows I did before COVID hit in person, I was headlining a comedy club in San Diego, and they told me 45 minutes before I went on to stage, and when I'm like 30 minutes in, I get a note a server comes up and hands me a note on the stage, and it says, "Go as long as you can," because I guess they were having something had happened to the like credit card machines and their power and stuff with this stuff. So they were scrambling to try to like get people their bills and stuff. So they were like, just go until you. So I was like, all right, we're gonna be pulling out some jokes I don't do very often. And you know, I probably went about an hour on stage, and then somebody came and gave me another note, being like, "Okay, we figured it out. You can get off stage now."
They came there like, we're just gonna let people leave for free. Can you stop,
Yeah,
please?
yeah, 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 totally. So
We don't need to see the college material anymore.
yeah, but you definitely have to be good on your feet. That's for sure.
The first still two-part question we always do now is, what have you been playing recently, and what do you have on your table right now? If you got anything on your table, it doesn't have to be the same thing.
So yes, I will say what I've been playing is different than what I've got on my table. What I've got on my table right now is I just learned Catacombs third edition and set that up. We're gonna be playing that tonight, but I haven't played it yet. But that is a one, you know, that's a game. Do you know this game at all?
That's one you're flicking stuff over there,
It's
right?
yes, it's like a, you know, quote unquote dungeon crawl, but it's a totally different type of dungeon crawl because it's a whole dexterity game where you are flicking different characters do different things. You know, if you're the wizard, you can actually stay way far back and flick from far away so that you're not like getting into the fray and taking damage. Where if you're the warrior with the battle axe, you're just running in and swinging a bunch, which means you're going in, you're flicking right into the midst of the bad guys and just sort of flicking around, you know? So I'm pretty excited. It is one of those games that takes a crazy amount of table space, and the box is absolutely huge. But I'm excited to play that one tonight. What have I been playing otherwise? What's actually been on my table? Last night we played Everdell, and which
I just got that
yeah,
right up there. My
it's
my my buddy just sent it. He wound up with an extra copy. He's like, "You want it?" I was like, "Yeah."
it's great. It's you know, it's my I have one. I live with multiple other comedians, and one of my other comedian roommates is very into games, and he is my
We call him the
go-to.
better roommate.
Yes, exactly. My favorite roommate. But he is. We do a lot of two-player games, just the two of us, and you know, and then every once in a while, I'll get the other ones to play something. But my roommate Dave, is the one that is like the main guy I play games with, and you know, when I got Everdell, he was home for like 3 months during the middle of the pandemic, and so I was playing it with other people, and I've played it, you know, I don't know, 6 or 7 times up to this point, but he had actually not played it yet. So I taught him last night, and he beat me his very first game of it, which was pretty embarrassing. You know,
Yeah. What does
uh,
that say about you as a?
yeah, it says that I didn't have a good. I made a real boneheaded move,
And that was teaching
which
him to play.
yeah, no, it's there is a thing in that game where you can link characters. If you have a structure, if you have a building, basically, it'll have a linking um, character, and you can play that character for free. And I just legitimately didn't look at my hand close enough, and I paid all of the resources to build this character. And right after I did it, I looked at my hand and I was like, "Oh no, I have the structure that would get that one for free." And so, and he beat me by like 3 points. So that probably changed the entire outcome of the game. Just that one boneheaded move. But it's a great game. You know, obviously, most gamers, I think worker placements is one of our most popular mechanisms, and that combines worker placement with engine building, which I think is a really good combination. And then obviously it's got the great table presence with the tree, and the artwork is really great and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've been. It's one that I've been like, oh, I should get this, and never did it. Mostly because I got a. Since I've gotten a little older, I have a weird love of any game that has an anthropomorphic animal in it.
oh,
Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but like I'm like, I don't know if I want that. It's got a talking raccoon. Really? Tell me more.
That's I wish I could be friends with animals. Is that what your subconscious is saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I was as accepted as that talking hippopotamus. Wanting to get it for a while, but my buddy sent it to me, so I'm decided to
Yeah.
eventually give it a try.
I think you will
But
like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I will. It's got everything type of thing I like,
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't usually like to play heavier games,
Yeah.
like heavy games. There's a few I will on occasion, but I just
Well, and Everdell to me is like that sort of perfect range of there's a lot of tough choices in that game. I mean, with the wrong people, there could definitely be analysis paralysis in that game because you're like, oh, am I going here to get this resource? Am I going here to get this resource? Because one helps me build this card, but the other one helps me build this card, and I don't know which card's going to work out better. So there's tough choices, but it still plays in 90 minutes. You
yeah,
know,
my wife it tends more towards having analysis paralysis, but it's fine because for me, I'm like, made a choice.
Yep.
I live
Yeah.
with it. You
I
know,
I'm definitely the analysis paralysis person in my house. Like my roommate's like, nope, nope, I did this. I'm committing, going forward.
yep, I will work my way out of my
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
But that's kind of the
Uh,
type of thing that I tend to like, which is maybe what the game I've been playing lately is. I love a game where you have to manage your way through some chaos.
yeah.
I just love it. And so lately I've been playing. I put it up here just for it. And I don't know how you don't have this game because I'm gonna give you the back of the box pitch, and you're gonna
Okay.
say, how do I not own this? Cosmic Frog,
I
World
don't know that
Eater.
I've even heard of that game.
But it's Cosmic Frog, World Eaters from Dimension Zero.
Okay.
Everybody is a 2 mile high frog that
All
is
right.
powered by a piece of star in their belly. And they hop around through space until they find a shard of a blown up planet. They land on it and they eat huge chunks of the planet, but they don't swallow them. They hold them in their gullets until they leap back into the ether and vomit it out into their space land vault. And you can fight the other frogs. And if you hit them hard enough, either stuff comes out of their gullet into yours, or perhaps you just stick your tongue down in their gullet and you steal it.
So the designer's theory of the Big Bang theory. This is their version of the Big Bang theory. This is
it's
this is how the universe was created.
it is the most insane, chaotic thing I've ever played, and it
Yeah,
is
it sounds like it. I mean, I feel
amazing.
like I the description is very intriguing. I'm on board, but I also feel like there's no way you develop this game without doing psychedelics, right? Like
I
it's
actually emailed the designer because I got this as a review copy. I emailed him and I said, "All right, where did this come from?" And he explained it to me. I
yeah.
was like, "That is perfectly logical."
Really? What's
Yeah,
the what's the explanation? I feel like this is a fever dream of a game, you know?
I was expecting him to come back with he was really sick and like he was
Yeah. I
in
was
and
on a
out of
ton of
like
NyQuil and
yeah,
yeah.
like the death coma type thing.
Yeah.
But it just was he was working on a game and he couldn't figure out a mechanic because it's like the movement was this. He said, well, maybe I'll make them dragons, but no, then I have to deal with flying. He's like, frogs only leap, they
Hmm.
jump. That's it, frogs. And he went from there.
Interesting. All right.
It's totally bizarre. It's got like I don't know 7 rules to actually play. And this the scoring is like a set collection because the stuff that you put in your space vault based on the how you put it in there and you get lines of the same stuff is worth points. And the most important thing though, when you fight somebody else, if you knock them off the shard into the ether, if you hit them hard enough, you knock them into other dimensions.
Yeah, yeah, you
Like
do.
if I hit you hard enough, I will knock you into the fifth dimension.
That's pretty sweet. I
And you
like
have to make your way back.
interdimensional travel via combat,
Yeah, via frog combat. You
Yeah,
did it right.
yeah.
Uh, so that I've been playing that one a whole bunch. There's a good solo mode out there. I've been playing with solo and with people online, trying to just try all the different variations. It's
How much does it play?
a 6. up to
Oh,
6.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I love would you tell me a game that adds that fifth or sixth player, because when I'm having in the before times when I'm having game nights and stuff like that, it's hard. I usually have more than 4 people, so you add that fifth and sixth player, boy, I'm on board.
Yeah, it's insane. It's crazy. It's pure chaos. There's so much chaos, which I'm all about it. Like
Can you mitigate the chaos? I feel like
a
that's one of
little
the
bit, a little bit.
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like so combat's just dice rolling. You each have a die, but you can spend your one resource that you have, which is
Okay.
oomph. If you put a little more oomph into it, you can roll 2 dice and pick the better one,
I'm
or
a
you can
sucker for a dumb pun, so that's good.
even down to the thing like when you have more stuff in your gullet. The more stuff in your gullet, the shorter distance you can leap.
Yeah, yeah,
But if you put more oomph into it, you can go further, which is just fun to say.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's
That's
some mid
awesome.
mitigate. It's kind of a like it's almost a game about timing of
Okay.
finding the right time to go for it. I mean, it's intensely unfair,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's
yeah.
unfair to everybody. Like the whole even like action selection, it's a deck of cards, and each player has like 5 cards in the deck, and just you flip them. So in theory, I could go 5 times in a row. In
Wow.
theory,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
then I'm not going to go for the next 10
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
turns. So
Well, and that's
anyhow.
a lot of gamers don't like take that sort of stuff, and I don't mind it at all. And I imagine that's because of coming from the world of comedy where we're constantly screwing each other over, anyways, in the entertainment business. So, yeah,
Never. You would never
yeah,
do that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, one of the earliest union theater gigs I did, one of the actor who for a long time he became like one of the lead clowns in one of the Cirque shows. Really funny guy, and he was telling me about his first real gig he got. He was a small role in a big time theater show, and the whatever the star was like just wasn't getting it, and the director walked over and was like, "Could you do that?" And he's like, he was like in his head, he's like, "No." He's like, "Or no, could you do that better?" He's 100%.
Yeah. Fake
Like
it
just
till you make
straight
it,
up.
baby.
Like
Yeah.
like one of his heroes.
Yeah.
He was just like,
You're giving me an opportunity, I'm taking it. I try to be a good guy too, because it's important to me to not just be a funny person, but be a good person. But, you do have to take opportunities when they come because they don't come that often.
so yeah. So I mean, you're saying that you'll slash Chris Rock's tires if you get to the headline.
Yeah,
Is
of
what I'm hearing.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
I don't know why I picked Chris Rock.
I mean, one of the classics. I
Yeah.
I run a show in Los Angeles in this awesome secret speakeasy bar, and Chappelle works out his new specials at my show, so that's pretty
Oh, that's
fun.
cool. I
Yeah,
guess not so secret anymore, huh?
yeah,
Oh
that's
well. So
true.
here's the question though.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be there to watch the secret show at the secret club. How do you
Hmm.
find out about the secret club? If you can say, I don't want you to lose your
Yeah,
gig.
no, it's totally fine. There have been articles written about it, and so there are, if you find an article, that sort of stuff. We essentially we think of our show as a secret show, but not a crazy exclusive show. You have to be on an invite list to come. Anybody can be on the invite list. You just have to have figured out how to get on the invite list through a friend that knows about it or through an article that was written about it. We have an email address, and essentially the way we do it is, we send out an email to our email address and we go, list is open for our next show. People then email back to like get on the RSVP list, and it sells out in 10 minutes or something like that. And so, that like the third Monday of every month, you're probably getting an email about this. And so watch out for it, you
So
know?
I mean, it's so it's not so much it's secret. It's put in the bare minimum effort, and you can come.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is like it's tough to get in, right? I mean, it sells out all the time really quickly. And we have a bunch of big name comics on it and stuff like that. So, it's something that I'm definitely very proud of that I've been running that show for 8 years. So
So you're saying what I'm hearing is you actually have the opportunity to slash some tires.
yes, I do. That's why I wanted to bring that up
Yeah. So I mean,
is that
everybody who's listening, that's the point. because
Yeah.
he can do it.
Yeah. I haven't done it yet, so please believe me that I'm a decent guy.
I haven't done it yet, but please believe me that I will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And which is actually a perfect segue into the game that's on my table right now. I'm working on a how to play video for Evil Core,
Ooh.
which I think goes up to 5.
That's a fun
No, 6. This goes up
box.
to 6.
I will say though, that's a box that like gets you interested and then also is annoying to try to fit on your shelves, you know?
Yeah, no, this is going to wind up living somewhere up high, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
for
but
sure.
it's a game where it sounds good. You're going to save the world. You know, our world has problems, and you are a billionaire, Bezos, or whoever you happen to be, Elon Musk, whatever, and you have your own secret plan to take over, but save the world, but in the way that you want to save the world, in some evil super villainish type scheme. And as you go, you're putting your seemingly normal businesses out on the board. And as you go, as long as you have it, and the money, it's only in billions. Like nothing less than a billion is worth your
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, of
You know.
course.
And so as you're going through your getting your businesses out in different cities, and you're making money, and you're spending the money to screw over other players. You might do a hostile takeover of their business. Now it's your business, and you're putting out your little evil schemes. Once you have all your evil schemes out, you get to flip over your big card, and it's your we're going to turn everyone into half robots is what we're going to do. And if no one can stop you, you win.
All right.
Yeah,
I like that. I
yeah. I was
love
just as you said, it might be one that you get you would enjoy. It doesn't
well,
play. Well, I haven't played it at a high player count, so I don't know. But it
yeah.
according to the box,
Not everything has to be a high player count for me since I do have my roommate Dave,
yeah, 2 to 6
but
players. But I
okay.
wouldn't play it less than 3, because
Well,
like that's the whole point. Is like you're messing. Because if you just say I take that game against just one player.
yeah, then it becomes personal where you like, really? You're just coming up. Yeah, yeah, you're the only option. I love a game about being secret evil too. One of my most underrated games of 2020 was Mechanica. Did you play that one?
No, never even heard of it.
It's yeah, I mean that's it's super underrated and boy do I like it. It's from Resonim Games, who is the company that did Visitor in Blackwood Grove. If you ever heard of that one, that was a
Apparently, I don't do games. I
no,
don't know.
yeah, yeah, it's okay. But Mechanica, you are it. It's a legitimately funny rule book, and a lot of times I would tell people like, don't try to put jokes in the rule book. We're just trying to learn the game. You know what I mean? Don't try so hard. And this rule book is so actually funny that I'm like, man, I'm glad they did this. But that game is about sort of building a production line of robots so that those robots can clean your house slash get ready to take over the world, like that's the whole thing. Robots are like, no, I'm here to make your life easier for when
Kill
you
you.
no longer exist. And it's a great game of you're building, it's a production line game where you're sort of building your engine, you're buying new pieces that are upgrading your production line, and buying cards and stuff with the robots that you're creating. But it's a game that uses the box as part of the game, and I'm a real sucker for that. When a
I
game,
love the idea of
yeah,
that.
and it doesn't work for you normally.
I've only seen one. Only actually had 1 or 2 games that actually did it, and it was annoying.
Sonora does it well too. If you've played
Oh,
Sonora
that's
from
a
Candace,
flicking. I can't. I've never played a roll and write. I just can't. I got one somewhere back there. Someone gave me
yeah.
welcome to, and I should like. There's no reason I shouldn't, but
See, I like them because not every roll and write, because some of them can get repetitive, right? There's a lot of roll and writes that feel very much like a roll and write that already exists, but a roll and write that does it well, they're usually small boxes, so they're easily transportable, which is big for me when I'm going to visit my family or I'm taking a game on the road with
you're not
me
taking
for when I'm
Gloomhaven on the road.
no, exactly, definitely not.
That is your
Uh,
carry on. You wear the
yeah,
same
yeah.
clothes.
Yeah,
And
no, thank you. I mean, I've never played Gloomhaven. Maybe I'll play Jaws of the Lion, but I don't think I'm gonna ever play regular Gloomhaven because it's just so overwhelming. Like I'm like, it makes me seeing that box just makes me want to cry. You know.
All right, so our actual thing that we're talking about today, and for people who are watching and listening, we initially were going to do this back in December,
Yeah,
and then Grant had something very important to do,
I disappeared for a month.
and
Uh,
now he's
no,
back.
yeah, yeah. No, honestly, the what happened was we went up for, we were going to go to Boston for the holidays. We obviously canceled that because of all the rising COVID cases during that time. And when we drove to Oregon to be with my mom up in Oregon, and then COVID exploded in Los Angeles. I don't know if you remember seeing the news, but it was like they were like, "There's no hospital beds, there's no," and so I didn't come back to LA for like 5 weeks because it didn't feel worth it. So I didn't bring any of my audio equipment and stuff like that up to Oregon with me. So that's why it took longer to get here than I would have wanted.
Yeah, and so
You know,
the end of the day is neither of us actually remembered what we were going to be talking
that's
about.
true.
Is a real point. I
Yeah,
remembered the game we were going to talk about at the end, but I pulled up the I turned on my iPad with the notes, and of course it was dead.
yeah.
And I plugged. I was like, "Oh god!" And so I plugged it in. I'm sitting there like waiting and watching. I was like, "Okay, 20%, 20%. Okay, I can do this 20%." But so what we're actually talking about is getting people into the hobby. That's what
Yes.
we're actually talking about today. So a lot of these, lighter games is really kind of the well, because both of us like lighter games, and you're not dropping Gloomhaven on a new
No.
new, new game. Though another bit for you, get the most obtuse freaking game you can find, and just go find people, and because if you take a camera, people will do stuff.
Yeah,
Get someone with
yeah,
a camera and be, okay, we're gonna learn this game,
yeah.
and just
I just
watch the.
watch the terror on people's faces.
What?
Yeah. That's a game? That box is a game?
There,
Are you
there's
kidding me?
there's no
Yeah.
dice in this box.
Yeah,
Why is
yeah.
this dice shaped like a pyramid? So it'll
Uh,
hurt more.
yeah.
But so just kind of starting out talking about how did you get in to this hobby,
Yes,
and the second part of it is what games stand out to you as the first games that you were like, wow, this is great.
totally. Well, I had an introduction into games when I was younger through Magic the Gathering. I was very into Magic when I
Ah,
was
paper
like,
crack.
yep, yep, when I
Yeah,
was
we're
like,
roughly the same age, and yeah, that oh boy.
yeah, so I was one of the big things for me was we had a uh magic shop slash game shop slash comic book shop in I lived in a townhouse complex, and the my backyard had a wall, and that wall bordered up to a sort of strip mall where there was like a Vons and a Blockbuster and stuff. In that strip mall was this magic shop slash comic book shop. And so when I was, 10, 11, 12, I was spending all my allowance just hopping my wall and going over there and looking through the glass case and that sort of stuff. So I got real into magic when I was, you know, 10 years old, 11 years old in like 1995. And I loved it. And then, I got more into sports and that sort of stuff when I was the 14, 15, 16, and kind of
And it was
stopped
very
playing.
not cool to be
Yeah.
playing Magic, right?
Yeah, I mean, in high school, I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely was. I think, Magic, when we were in 6th grade, everybody was doing it. People were doing Pogs and Magic. And then you hit high school and people weren't doing it as much anymore. And I fell sort of victim to that peer pressure or whatever. And
Yeah, they started doing drugs and
yeah,
beer.
yeah,
And you were like,
yeah.
"Can we just play Magic?"
Yeah, exactly. I'll be over here in the corner waiting for a partner. uh, but so I got out of it for a long time. And it wasn't till about like 5, 6 years ago, my buddy Shane Moss, who's a great comedian, also loves games. And he started hosting game nights for comedians in Los Angeles. And, I was friends with him. So I started coming over. And I think that probably also met this moment in my own development where I was like, I don't want to go to house parties anymore. I don't want to just like drink at a bar. Yeah, there's nights maybe I want to drink at a bar, but I don't want to do this all the time. And you go and you play games and you're like, man, this is such great sort of structured hangout time with your friends. Sometimes half the time I think of games as like structured drinking, right? This is an
And
opportunity
it's
where
so
you
much
can
cheaper.
totally where
You
you
go,
can
you get a
have
nice, six pack of a craft beer, or if you're really being nice, you get 12 of them, and you
yeah,
hang out. You got something to. There's even something to talk about, even if you don't
totally.
know the people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really makes those social dynamics so much easier where you just are like, we can chit chat a little bit and then we're going to focus on the game here and I don't have to like get to know you completely.
And
Uh
that jerk that wants to keep on chit chatting, you just
yeah.
block it.
Yeah. So, in those early days, the games that we were playing were the code names and telestrations and cash and guns, right?
Oh, I
Games
bet your
like that.
telestrations go south very fast, don't they?
Oh, yeah, and we always made sure to play telestrations. It was always the last game of the night when people are the most tired and the most drunk because boy is that game better when the drawings are bad, you
Oh
know?
yeah, for a while we were playing that with people who are like legitimately could draw,
Yeah, and you're like, this is
and
not
so I started just writing down exactly what my first impression was, even if I know there's no way that crap in a bag
Yeah.
is what they drew, but that's what it looked like at first. And then when you get the real artist drawing the ridiculous stuff that you've
Yeah.
written down,
Totally. I
it's
mean that
amazing.
that is that game is better definitely to play with people that like don't realize that the card would never say this, Where you're like, no, 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 just whatever you think it is, write it down. I remember one time we we started the suggestion was Superman, and somebody drew this big muscly guy with his arms on his hips, and then the next person drew that guy defeating somebody, and then the next person drew that guy, like saving somebody, and there was like barbed wire around it. And it went when it got around the table, it literally got from Superman to concentration camp. And you're like, how how did this happen? Right? Where it's just like so crazy that it went that far, And
Yeah,
yeah,
that reminds me of one of the ones that is my favorite too. How many gamers can say they have like favorite telestrations moments? Like I bet all of us have.
totally.
Like there was one like the word was surrender, and someone had tried to what they were trying to draw is like surrendering a baby at like the fire station,
Yeah, yeah.
but he couldn't really draw. And so he had this stick figure person laying down with its legs akimbo with like a child rocketing out towards a fire truck.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what that was interpreted to, but
Yeah, and you're like, I don't care what this is, I'm here for it. All right.
I,
If you haven't played this yet, a game that came out in 2020, if you like Telestrations, I'm recommending it to a lot of people. Monstrosity
I've
is
heard
one
it's
of the
great.
it's really fun, and it really sort of fits that same mold as Telestrations, where you don't have to be good at drawing this. You don't have to, this is not a competition. We're all just being silly and having a good time, and it's super fun.
Gotten to talk about this several times, but one of the games I haven't talked about a lot, that was one of the first ones that I really loved, is Red Dragon Inn.
Oh, yeah.
And
Still, I same with me. That was definitely one of our early games as
and
well.
it's always and I may have all of it. I may have a problem.
Yeah.
Um, we won't talk about that. But that was the first hobby game that I bought because I was walking by a store and I saw some people that were playing. I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And they told me this premise. I was like, "That is hilarious. I'm gonna go buy that right now."
Well, and we're talking about this idea of getting people into games, right? How do you get people into games? And I think a game that serves as a transition point is a great way to get people into games. And Red Dragon Inn really fits that mold to me, where it's like, hey, you've played drinking games before. You played them when you were in college, you played them whenever, but what about a game about drinking?
And you've
This is
probably seen The Lord of the Rings.
Yes, exactly, and I
Like the
think that's a great transition point.
yeah. And that's
Uh,
actually how I pitch it. It's like Lord of the Rings. You're done. What are you gonna? You're gonna go drink and you're gonna gamble. That's what you're gonna do.
have you ever played a Battle for Greyport? It is their deck building. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
excuse me. I guess like
Yeah, yeah,
I think we are the two people.
yeah.
Um,
I think it's really underrated. It's one
I
of
love
those
it.
yeah,
It's
I
one of my
think it's
favorite
really
deck
fun
builders.
too.
I even went out and bought some metal coins to bling it out.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh, yeah, it's a great game, and actually, you don't. They have a dungeon crawl coming.
Oh, do they? I
Yeah,
did not know
I've
that.
actually
Alright.
I got to play Tabletop Simulator. I got to play it.
Cool. That's
Um,
fun.
yeah, it's all the same. Mostly, it's all the same characters, right?
Yeah, yeah.
that's what does it because it's got good comedy in there.
Yeah, totally. I
With
agree.
like the different characters and the it's the fluff text, right? Because all the cars do the same stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like my wife's favorite is the big ogre Gog, who's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
nice and sweet, and like has a card. Oh, give Gog a hug, and everyone gets hurt because he
Yeah,
crushes
yeah.
you or whatever. But it's that comedy
Yeah, and it just
that
elevates it a
yeah,
bit.
and
Yeah.
you when you play a game like that, and you read those titles out loud. You're like, oh, hey Grant, I don't think so. Like whatever it is, you read it out, and it just kind of breaks down that kind of barrier and that nervousness, that whatever it is. Because once you start laughing a little bit at the game, whatever it is, then you're in. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and it kind of breaks through little bit of a wall that might be there. Okay, I'm sure it's intent. Like, oh, look at all this crap I got behind me, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
walked in here, you never played a game, so we're gonna play a game. You'd look at it and be like, oh my god,
Yeah, you'd be overwhelmed.
yeah,
I mean, that's, when we talk about how to get people into games, one of the things that sort of upsets me is that gamers don't oftentimes we've played so many games, and when you know games, it's so much easier to sort of get on board with a new game because you're like, okay, this mechanism's like this, I get it, this is like that, all right, I'm on board. But regular people, non-gamers, aren't like that. I
yeah.
mean,
If
they
you like,
haven't
you told me about
played.
worker placement and tableau building for Everdell, I know what that is. I
Yes,
feel like I could play the game. If you've
for
only played
sure.
Monopoly or checkers,
And I wish gamers were a little bit more choosy and conscientious about what games they picked before when they were introducing a new person to games. For example, I have a buddy, a comedian, who was like, I was like, you say I think you'd
now
like
I'm gonna
games.
jump in. Do
Yeah.
you have any friends that aren't comedians?
Yes, I got a lot of college friends and stuff like that.
Okay, because
But
because it occurred to me, like I got a friend, a comedian. I was like, you may be able to just excise that a
that's
positive
true.
from
That's true.
your dialogue.
That's
But no, so
true.
you do have some other friends. Okay.
So I have this friend who I was like, "Do you want to play games? I think you'd like games." And he was like, "I don't know. I played this game recently and it was too much." And I was like, "What game was it?" And he was like, "There was a lot of dice. It was like overwhelming." And we tried to figure it out. Somebody, as his like first game into gaming, introduced him to Too Many Bones.
That's so. I was totally thinking about. It. I was like, a
And
lot
you're
of
like,
dice, too much. Like, what is?
"Why? Why would you play that with somebody who's never played games before? That is crazy to me. Of course, that's like, and this guy now is like, I don't know if I want to play games anymore. It's like, yeah, well, if we had played, you know, if we look, you want dice? How about Deep Sea Adventure? You know what I mean? Like, what if we had played? uh that's pretty clever with him or something like that where it's like this is an introduction to dice
Something that
instead of
doesn't
just
have a different reference card for every single
yeah,
player.
just pushing them into the deep end, and to me that's like to me that goes, well, this is a person who might have been part of the hobby, who might have played games more, who's now out because their first experience was a bad experience, right? I mean we can say that with any hobby. That's not just games. If you go scuba diving for the first time and your instructor like forces you to go 800 feet below, you're gonna like maybe you're not gonna do it again, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
I one of my other gigs was we talked before we started is I run a Shakespeare company, and people who they don't know if they've never seen Shakespeare and they're afraid of Shakespeare. I don't send them to Titus Andronicus.
No, you're
It's
doing
a
12th
comedy of
night.
errors.
Yeah.
They've got a fart joke in it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows a fart joke.
Yeah,
You just
for
got to kind of
sure.
take it easy. But that kind of brings up the next question: like, why do we actually care? Because we don't make our money doing board games, and there's enough board games out there that we are fine. But why do
True.
we actually care about getting people to come join us in this uh,
I
in
think
this
it's this
hobby?
I think it's the same thing with any hobby. We love this thing and we want to share that joy with people that don't know anything about it. I mean, right? Hasn't there's always been there's an underground movie that you love and you're like, you gotta watch this movie, right? You gotta check this movie out. This is such a great movie that nobody knows about. It's the same thing with board games. I mean, for as much as board games are growing, and they are, the hobby is growing a lot right now.
And
It is,
it's very much because it used to, even when I just started playing
yeah,
games, it was still kind of like, ooh, you know, you play board game? Oh, okay, nerd.
yeah,
Okay, nerd. I mean, to be fair, yes, nerd. But
yeah.
but it kind of had that kind of negative
Yeah, it had
connotation.
like a
Well, like
stigma.
you talked about when you were playing Magic in high school, like
Yeah,
that was going to be the hill you were going to be on by yourself.
totally. Well, and we literally had a new roommate move in not that long ago. And beforehand moving in, we were like, "Do you like board games?" And he was like, "No, I'm an adult." And now he's been playing a bunch of board games with us. And he's like, and we're still like protective about like I'm not playing Everdell with him. I'm playing like Skull and Battle Sheep and stuff like that with him. So we're still sort of easing him in, but he's like, "Oh, I didn't know that there were like good board games," right?
Yeah.
Like he just a lot of people don't know, right? When you say board game, they think Monopoly, Scrabble, Risk, and that's where the list ends. You know?
Yeah, I always, one of my very closest friends who's significantly older than I am, um, and never did any of the kind of games, But usually for my birthday, what I would do is people come over and I would set it up, say, okay, it's all day, drinks, a lot of grilled meat, and play games.
That sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, right. You can come
Yeah.
next time if you're
Yeah,
vaccinated.
please.
Um, but usually, but earlier in the day, I'd say, okay, this is for like the real nerd games. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna play Root, or like
Yeah, for sure.
something like that. And then as we get later and later, like we'll end with like a joking hazard, like
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing to do. And when you like set that expectation, like when I do like game night stuff, I'm like saying like, here's what we're planning to play tonight. Here's a little description. If you just want to like have a game where you're drinking a beer and joking around, this isn't the night. But you know what? Next week we're playing these three games, and that's your night. You know.
I love this image that you have a months out schedule of games planned. Well, if you're someone that likes dry European games
Yeah,
based on
yeah.
this region of Germany, July 24th, 2022 is your time.
Yep.
But so but my buddy, but my buddy, he always comes. We've been friends for a long time. Comes, he's always there, and he'll just jump in like whatever. And another friend of mine who's a game designer, he came down. He had just gotten something off Kickstarter that he really wanted to play, and we were in the middle of some other game because they got there a little early. And oh, let's play this! And my buddy walked over there, and they were playing some 4X space game. And my buddy's never played anything more complicated
Yeah.
than Joking has. And I looked over, and Ken was just drink.
Yep.
And then but I didn't like everyone was having such a good time, and he was enjoying that they were having fun. So I just kept refilling his drink and just topping it off. And then by the end, he walked over. He's like, "I don't know what I just did for the last 2 hours."
Well, at least he sounded like a good sport about it.
But
Yeah.
when you're,
Yeah.
but like, I can't imagine if that had been just some guy that came over because he happened to know
Totally.
somebody else, right? Like, there's no way. Not only would he not want to play games, he wouldn't want to talk to me again. You know?
Oh, yeah. And I will say, even I still fail at like understanding the level of complexity with people sometimes. I try to be very conscious of it. But recently, I have I've got a friend, and she was like, "Hey, bring some games over. My roommates are interested in playing some games. Right? They've never played games before. They're interested in playing some of the games because they hear about me. She's somebody that likes games a lot, though she doesn't have her own collection, but she plays with me all the time. So she's like, I don't need to buy them. I just come over to your house. So I brought some over to her house, and I brought Skull, which to me is a very simple, very fun game. Great introductory game. It's like, hey, you've gambled before. You know what betting, you know what bluffing is. Skull's a great modern implementation of those things in a board game fashion. And, you know, these people were also drunk for sure, but like they could not wrap their head around Skull. And I kept just being like, every turn, you got two choices. You're either adding a coaster to your pile of coasters or you're saying a number. That's it. Now, if somebody has already said a number, you also have two choices. You can pass or you can do a bigger number. That's it. And they were like, I mean, literally, we played maybe three games. And even on the third game, they were like, wait, what can I do right now? And I'm like, Jesus Christ. You can
As you're
put a coaster
slowly
down.
pushing Forgotten Waters
Yes.
under the couch.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and then we ended up like scrapping that one and just playing By Felicia, which is essentially reverse categories, where you're like, all you have to do, there's a thing that comes up, you write down a bunch of things. If you wrote down the same thing as somebody else, you're still in. And they were like, oh, okay, we get this. This is fun.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
thank God he stopped with those heavy games.
Yeah, I know. Where you're like, okay, I mean, boy, I don't know if you guys are just dumb or drunk, but Skull's pretty easy. and
And you immediately went on BGG and said, Skull, wait, 5.
yeah, seriously.
Impossible to learn.
That's what they would have said. That's like, that was their level, where I was like, I don't know how to explain this any easier to you. You put a coaster down or you say a number. That's it. And they were like, but what if I say a number? Can I put a coaster down after that? And I'm like, no. No, you can't. You could just put a coaster. And they're like, can I put two coasters down? And I'm like, gee, how do I have to keep saying this to you?
It's it's like when I play games with mom,
Yeah.
you know.
I've learned about my mom, cooperative games all the way, baby. Like just one huge hit with my mom family, where I'm like, okay, we're only bringing cooperative games home. As long as because she tries to say that she's not competitive. She tries to claim that, but even the way she says that is competitive, right? She's like, I'm not competitive. You're competitive. You're more competitive than me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying you're competitive.
Don't hurt me, mom. I'm already scarred.
Yeah.
So when you do have that, I mean, as we come off of your story of your failed attempt to get those people to ever want to like games ever again, when you have that opportunity, and it's like, okay, I want to try some games. What are you focusing on? Like, what is the thing that you focus on? I know for me, it's like you were talking about earlier, 5 minutes or less though for a rules description,
Yes.
and knowing whatever the game is, knowing that I know it well enough that even when little mistakes are happening, I can just fix it and we'll move on. Like we don't have to. You don't actually need to know why I just moved that cube over there. Let's just play.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. And if it's something that will make them laugh,
For sure. I think that's hugely important, right? I mean, those are memorable experiences when you're laughing. I mean, when I'm talking about introducing somebody who doesn't play any games to games, I agree with you that the amount of rules highly important, right? I want to play a game that I can explain in a few minutes with them, and there's not that many rules that go into it. Laughter, very important. And the other thing that I will say is, when I'm playing games with somebody who doesn't play games very much, I am oftentimes thinking about what are games where the experiences are the memorable part and not the winner, right? I don't want the winner to be what you take away from this. When you walk away and you go, oh, remember that time Jerry won that game. No, 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 no. You're talking about, oh, remember that memorable moment in the middle of the game. Who won? I can't even remember. Right? That's why Telestrations is a great sort of classic example of that. Like, I don't think anybody remembers who won a game of
Have you ever kept score in that?
Telestrations.
I've never even kept
No,
score.
I mean we rarely do keep score in that when we play it, you know? And so I think those types of stuff where you're like, "Oh, this is we're focused on the shared experience here rather than the competitive nature of a game." That's what I want to play with somebody who's never played a game before.
What are the if if you had a group of in the after times group of I don't know 8 people, 7 people. They're like, oh, we want to play. Grant does game. He has a big time YouTube channel. He's going to
Yeah,
teach us games.
yeah.
What are you gonna bust out for them? And what would you bust out if you had a small group, two extra people?
So if I have a lot of people, Dead Last is one of my favorite games. One of my favorite party games. Plays up to 12 people. It's from Smirk
I'm
and
so
Dagger
proud of you that you did
Games.
not say curmudgeon.
Yeah, no. Thank you. For those that don't know, I have a game, PSA. But no, Dead Last is um, a game where there is very little, there aren't that many rules, there aren't that many components, and it is highly social, right? I mean, that is a game. So if you haven't played Dead Last, it is almost more of a social experiment than it is a quote unquote board game. So everybody, you can play it up to 12. Everybody has a character color, a sort of standee that's in front of them. You have a hand of cards that has all the different colors, and you are secretly trying to make pacts with people around the circle to vote on somebody else's color to sort of kill that round. If you are in the majority of the vote, you are still in the round. Anybody who got voted for or who voted for somebody that wasn't one of those majority votes out of that round. It plays super quickly. It's really social. You can go, oh, I'm going to the bathroom, and then text 5 people that are there, like, hey, vote for black this time, or vote for yellow this time, or whatever, you know? And it just stays really social, and you can play it with so many different people. I mean, there's not that many games where you can play up to 12 people and it scales well, right?
Yeah,
You know, a lot of party games stop at that 6, 7, 8 range.
yeah. The big one that I've busted out is a game called Trophies, which
Mm.
is just a tiny,
You know,
tiny little box.
that's on my shelf of shame. I that
Oh,
you now
well,
you
it's not
say
going to
that
be
I
much
gotta.
fun till you can get more people.
Yeah.
But it's one of the ones that I took to school, and the teachers we had lunch every now and then. We would play it, and it's just one where it's just a big old stack of cards, but you just call out a category. On the front of it is a letter, and people just start shouting out
Okay.
something that fits that category, and then whoever it is that is, as if I'm the judge, I'm like, Grant said something. Yeah, that makes sense. I heard him first. Here you go. You get the card.
All right.
And then the winner at the end, they had this tiny little metal trophy. You get your picture with the trophy, and then the loser gets a card that says participation trophy,
That's funny.
which is fun. So, but what happens is people, well, this as people start trying to think real fast, people start saying the
Yeah.
weirdest
Yeah.
stuff. Like, you start up, people are trying to be funny or clever, but you start getting into it, and you get, X, and it's, food or something, and it's people
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
and they start like you'll say X food, and someone will shout out burrito, and everyone's like, "What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
The whole thing plays in just a few minutes, but it generates a conversation.
Well, and again, it's that idea of creating that memorable moment. If somebody says burrito, you're like, "Hey, remember that time Chuck said burrito? You know
Hey
how
guys,
dumb was
remember how
that?"
Chuck doesn't know how to read?
Yeah, yeah, uh,
Chuck's like, I've been working on it for many years.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but so yeah, but just we're talking about the same thing, right? It's not about the like. There's nothing amazing about that mechanic I just described. There's nothing amazing about the mechanic of Dead Last, but
yeah.
you're all everyone's interacting.
That's another thing about introductory games when you're trying to introduce people to games. I think games with high player interaction are really important, right? I mean, there's plenty of games that we as gamers like where you're just kind of like, we're just off building our garden and we might as well be in separate rooms. We're just looking at the same board and stuff like that. And I found that a lot of new players don't like that sort of stuff because those games are a lot quieter, a lot thinkier. They're like, no, no, no. I'm here to hang out with my friends. I want to play a game that has a ton of player interaction. So I think that's an important thing to think about as well.
Right, right. And so what's your smaller player count game that you're going to introduce people to? What's going to grab them?
One of the things that I've been playing recently on the smaller count that I think is great for new gamers is the Chameleon from Big Potato Games. Because literally in the rule book of the Chameleon, they say points are optional. It's another one of those experiential games. It plays best. You can play it, I think, up to six, but I think it plays best at like four, so a much smaller sort of party game. Um, and in the Chameleon, you have a category card. It might be like fast food chains or subjects in school or something like that. And there's a ton of different options on this thing. We roll a dice. We all have a key code that, okay, this dice, I rolled a four on the six-sided dice and a five on the eight-sided dice. Now I look at the 4 5 sort of column, and I know that B3 is what the word that we all know is. And B3 says McDonald's. So now I am giving a clue that is related to McDonald's. However, one player doesn't get a key card. They just have a card that says you are the chameleon. So they have no idea what the right word, what the right thing is. So they are just sort of making up a clue, trying to blend in, being like, no, 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 no. I know what the thing is, right? I gave a clue, and then everybody is trying to accuse who they think the chameleon is. But the trick is that even when you know what the word is, if you say something too obvious and you accuse the correct person of being the chameleon, if they guess what the word is, they still win. So everybody is trying to give somewhat vague clues, but also clues that like key you in to being like, okay, I think he knows what it is, right? If you said Big Mac, terrible clue, right? The the chameleon's gonna guess it, no
I like
problem.
how quickly
But
you rushed to judgment on my clue there. That's
yeah,
it's very rude. Terrible clue. God.
but if you said something like "Coming to America," right? Well, "Coming to America" has a
McDowell's.
parody about McDowell's, which is close to
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
McDonald's.
whoa,
So
whoa.
now,
They're
yeah,
different.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
watched Coming to America too a few nights ago, and
yeah.
their McFlurried or whatever it's called. They put their stuff on the bottom. That's very
Yep.
different.
Yeah, very different. But
Okay.
that's a good example of a good
Yeah.
where you have to do a clue that's sort of like one or two or three points of separation.
Which
But
leads to the fun of, do they have that same knowledge base? Because
yeah,
I got that immediately.
yes. Plenty of people wouldn't have gotten that for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's clever.
uh,
The I'm gonna go a little out on a limb with the other one that I would bust out because it can be off putting. So you gotta read the people because it's a dexterity game.
okay.
And so I mean we know people that are like
Yeah.
It's a game called Kushi Express.
I
It's
don't
from
know it.
a Korean Korean publisher. I got a copy of it, and then I immediately said, "This isn't sold here. How can I have more?" And I bought a case from them.
Oh wow.
Gave them all away.
That's
Sent the
awesome.
last copy to somebody, and they said, "We would like to give this to everyone we know for Christmas. Can you get us another case?" And so had a case sent to them. The game is everyone runs their own grilled meat skewer stand. Every round, and you have a little a skewer, and you got a piece of beef, a piece of shrimp, a green pepper, and a tomato, a piece of bacon, which is a long strip, and a piece of cheese, which is a long strip. And every turn you flip over a card, and it shows you how your skewer is supposed to look like. And you got to build it. It's like big old rubbery cubes that you put on the skewers, and sometimes you have to like wrap the bacon, in between the beef and then back down in between the pepper and the exact, or maybe you have to perfectly wrap the cheese
Yeah,
around
yeah.
the beef or whatever it is. But the first person to finish and put it on the little plate and say bon appetit, they get the card.
That's
But
fun.
the catch is there's another card that's got this like shouting dude on there. And when that comes up, you have to stand up and shout Kushi. And the first person to do it gets to steal a card from somebody else. And it is the most fun game.
Yeah.
One of the most fun I've ever played. I remember when I got it. I was looking. I was like, "This sounds interesting." I was looking at it, and I gave it some buddies were over looking at stuff. I said, "Oh, before you go, I got to. I'm reviewing this. Let's play it." And I remember he read the rules in 9 seconds, and he said, "This is either the dumbest thing or the most amazing thing ever made." And it just is this ridiculous blast because you're going, and suddenly your hands don't work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You start trying to go
Well,
fat, and you're trying to wrap this stupid ribbon of bacon around something, and you just can't do it.
I
It's
think
it's it's
I think it
wonderful.
also I think it also brings up a point relative to our topic of how to get people into games is theme matters. When you're trying to get new people in the game, theme matters. Look, I love a wizards and warlocks game as much as anybody else, but that is objectively a nerdy theme. And to a lot of people that play games, they're like, "What? I don't want to like be an ogre. I want to just be me." And you're like, well, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why like Sushi Go is one of the best introductory games. It's like, hey, we all like food. You probably like sushi. Here's a game about it. And people go, oh, okay, I can get on board with that. Whereas this game sounds like the same thing. It's like, we all have to eat food. You've probably seen a, meat cart stand at some point. On board. Let's go.
Yeah, but it does the same thing. People just start laughing because the
Yeah.
second you see either you or you see someone else suddenly unable to do
Yeah.
anything, it's just always funny. Or then when you're so confident you've done it perfect and you put it out there like bon appetit, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about? You're missing the beef," you know.
Yeah.
And it just always it's always a hit. And I remember, I would take it into school. Sometimes people would play it, and they would, to the point to where other teachers asked me to get them a copy.
Oh, that's cool.
And these aren't people who ever played any games before.
Yeah, totally.
But so it sounds like we're in agreement. Simple, make them laugh, teach them quick,
For
and
sure.
no one. You don't really remember who wins. Like maybe you
Yeah.
remember who wins Kushi Stress, but not really. You know, not more than
Yeah.
5 minutes later. You just remember that Grant stabbed himself in the eye with a skewer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's funnier and more memorable than who wins anyways. So,
So I
yeah.
mean, and by the way, if you would like to use that in your next stand-up special,
Yeah, stab
just
myself in the eye with a skewer. Perfect.
well, because
Yeah.
you can be. I've seen specials. You got your drink out there. Why can't you have a skewer?
That's true.
A meat
That's
skewer.
true. Look, I'm trying to be memorable here,
You can be memorable twice.
Yeah,
Do it
exactly.
twice. But we talked about all this mess to talk about a game that I would not recommend. So we've never played games before necessarily, but we both enjoy Bunny Kingdom. Which
Yeah.
so you know how I sold this game to my wife?
Huh.
We were going to play because I thought I knew she would like it, but I tried to describe it. She's like, I don't know, and I took a bunny out and I just went boink 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 boink, boink. And that was it. That's all it took. She was like, just stop it, stop it. Stop
That's
it. Oh,
funny.
okay, that's kind of cute. Those are cute. Okay, all right, they're cute little bunnies. I'm in.
Well, and the best part of it is you can get people on both ends of the spectrum because you show the little bunny to somebody who loves cute and adorable, they're on board. But then you show the art of some of the like characters, like the warrior bunnies and stuff like that. And I've had dudes be like, Bunny King, I don't want to play a game about bunnies. And I'm like, look at that. And they're like, oh, okay, that bunny looks pretty tight. That's not just the totally cute bunny, it's like a warrior bunny. Yeah,
And so, for anybody who doesn't know, Bunny Kingdom is a drafting game with a little bit of an area control kind of vibe to it, where you're
for sure.
spawning your bunnies all over the board and trying to connect them to get the biggest kingdoms or fiefs as you're going. And you're drafting scoring cards as you go. So maybe if you control the most corners of the map, you'll get extra points. Or for producing the most carrots, you'll get extra points. And so at the end of 4 rounds, you're just trying to have leveraged your kingdom to get a whole bunch of points. And that's really it.
Yeah.
It's a drafting game, really.
Yeah, and I think other than like a Sushi Go, I think this was one of the first drafting games I really got into and made me fall in love with the drafting mechanic because, that's one of those perfect examples of it's not hard, but the choices are hard, right? Where you get this hand and there are 7 cards in it and you want 3 of them, but you can't keep all 3 of them. Boy, which one do you take? I love those difficult choices where it's like it's not a physically hard, game to I don't have to like there's not a ton of rules here or whatever, but the choices are difficult and I think that's really fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you've ever played it, the 2 player version does a thing where you at the beginning of each turn you have another stack of cards. You draw a new card into your hand, you keep a card, and you throw one away. So not only are you taking one, but now I'm like, I think Grant probably wants this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Screw that guy. I'm throwing this card away.
Totally.
And it's an interesting game to because it's a mean game.
Yeah, it can be where
Like,
you're definitely hate drafting sometimes
yeah,
in it.
and in talking speaking to the thing you're saying about the hard choices, especially at the end of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the first couple turns, you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Yeah, all right, I'll take
Yeah.
this. Oh, city, yeah, I could use a city. But then you get towards the end, and you're looking at what they have, what you have. You're like, I want all of these,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
it's
know.
very it's amazingly very tight the decision space you have at the end. Now I don't know if you've played with the expansion or not.
I have not. No.
Oh, you have to, if for no
I
other
will
reason that
say
you take a rainbow bridge to the sky.
okay, that sounds fun. I'm definitely not a huge expansion guy because really it just comes from there's so many board games. Are you a breadth person or are you a depth person, right? And I think I've always been in life, not even in board games, just more of a breadth person where I'm like, I want to try all these different things, right? And so I can either play one game with the expansions and keep getting a deeper experience, or I can play 3 other games. And I've always just been kind of somebody that's like, I want to try all the games.
Yeah, that is a good point. Well, at first I would get the expansions because well, I have to have the whole game. Gotta have the
Yeah,
whole game.
yeah,
But now I've gotten over that a little bit, thankfully. But now what I find happens is when I find one that like my wife likes, or some of my non have gamer friends who will come play games with me, find one that they like. Well, that I know I can bring that back out over and over again.
yeah,
I could go put Bunny Kingdom out on the table right now and just go boink boink boink, and my wife's like, okay.
yeah, yeah. And,
So
and
start
I
to get
definitely
get
have, I definitely have a few of those. Like a Champions of Midgard is one of those for me where I'm like, everybody, like the few guys that I have that play more serious games with me. I mean, every other session they want to play Champions of Midgard, and so I'm happy to have like the expansions for that sort of stuff because we're playing it all the time.
but there we can't just gush about it. So where are the what are the things that you would warn people about with that game? For me, I would say it's mean.
Yeah,
It
and
is mean,
and I would
or it
say
can be.
it's and I would say it's a quieter game. It's
Mhm.
definitely like this is one of those games that like there is player interaction in terms of which spots you are taking on the map, but there's not a ton of player interaction in the game because sure, you can hate draft and not let me get a card, but I don't know that you've done that, right?
Right.
Like you've done that in secret when looking at your hand, but it's not like we're having this huge like, oh come on man, you gotta give me that card, like it doesn't have that sort of stuff. And so I definitely think it
How
is a
dare you take C8?
yeah, exactly. I definitely think it's a quieter game, and so when I play with people who want that player interaction, it's not a popular game with them. I- it's a game I have found that either people really like it or don't like it at all. There aren't that many people that are just sort of, yeah, that's all right, you know? Like for instance, my roommate Dave, who I told you I play games with, he don't like that game at all. I think that game is. I think in general he doesn't like area control games, and so it's like, well, yeah, this is just drafting and area control. So if those aren't mechanisms you like, there is nothing else here for you.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think there's also a little bit of a amount of overwhelming options,
mm,
especially when you look at the kind of you picking those end game scoring cards and then trying to actually accomplish them. There's just, I mean, the stack of cards is this thick. You know, it's huge for the people who are
yeah,
listening. I don't know, a couple inches, I don't know, 6 inches thick. It's a huge stack. Um, and there's so many of those end game scoring cards, and just trying to
that
figure
is
out what's
that's
worth
a
it.
good point. You know, my older sister, who is my whole family likes games, but my older sister is the one that likes them the most. Like I can play, you know, fairly complex stuff with her, and she is somebody that does not like secret end of game scoring. She wants to know throughout the game that she is doing a better job than you and that you aren't going to surprise her at the end. And Bunny Kingdom has a ton of secret end of game scorings.
Yeah, I'll often get into the end of the game and have like 30 points, and then get a
And then
hundred
all
something
of a
at the end.
sudden, yeah, exactly.
Though I will say, just 2 days ago, I saw on Facebook. So I'm going to post some pictures of Bunny Kingdom talking about scoring 500 points,
Boy, yeah. I think
and it
I've
made
scored
me
over
wonder,
200 before, but I'm never close to that.
which made me wonder, am I just really bad at this game? Is there some like secret, obvious
Yeah.
path to being good at this game? I don't know, but like, and I said, oh, I was like, wow, that must have been an outlier. And that they said, no, no, we regularly score 300, 400. I'm like,
I
okay.
yeah, are you doing it wrong? I'm like I'm skeptical because like you know, one of our favorite engine building games in our house is It's a Wonderful World. And I think routinely a winning score is It's a Wonderful World is like 65 points. And then you go onto these apps where people are playing online and dudes are scoring 120 points and I'm like, "What are you how are you doing this?" Like or I don't understand. Like the highest I've ever scored in that game is like 90 points. And I play a lot of games and I would like to think that I'm decent at them, you
Well, you
know?
should stop thinking that you're decent at them,
Yeah,
apparently.
I guess so.
Yeah. And it's so, it just blew my mind. It's like,
Yeah.
500. What
500
is,
points seems crazy.
yeah, it doesn't seem, because the board doesn't even go up to it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that always gets me is I always like to look at the board and like, in theory, what am I supposed to be able to score?
I wonder, I mean, literally the only way I can think about, okay, do you have literally every bunny is part of a contiguous area, right? You don't have any separate areas and that area but even
But
that
even that
goes
wouldn't work because you
yeah
can only
because
have
that
up to
wouldn't
what,
yeah,
five
for
different things.
resources because
Yeah.
that would be you would just have to have a ton of cities in it and you'd have to have every resource. You'd have to have the three main resources and then like three of the special resources. And then you would be timesing it by like 20 because of your cities.
I don't.
It seems crazy. It seems hard to
I mean,
pull
to be
off.
fair, that they were playing with the expansion, which adds, 3 new resources, but still,
Yeah.
like, it, so anyhow, mostly I wanted you to be as sad about your
Yeah.
Bunny
That's
Kingdom abilities as I am now.
yeah. It is embarrassing when, you know, there are times where I'm like, I'm pretty good at this game. And then I think of my score and then I see what other people are scoring and I'm like, oh, I am not good at this game.
I'm gonna go back to telling jokes.
Yeah. I guess I gotta
You know what the joke
stay in the
was? My
lane.
score.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I don't. So that was the other thing that I just kind of stuck with. It's like, maybe this game is harder than I think it is. I think it's easy to understand and easy to play, but clearly it's very hard to be very good at it.
But I like those types of games. That easy to learn, hard to master, I think is the perfect type of game for where I'm at because you can play it with a casual gamer very easily because it's easy to learn. But it's also something you can play over and over with somebody who is a little bit more serious because you're like, no, we're trying to figure this game out, right?
Yeah. but we're kind of winding down here. And
Yeah.
actually, so I don't know about you. Are you a Kickstarter guy? Or you just wait till it actually shows up in person?
I wait till it shows up. You know what? I know too many people that have been like, I'm so frustrated. This Kickstarter's taking forever to fulfill. And I'm like, I don't need that extra grief in my life. I'm just gonna wait till a game is available for retail. I've actually never backed a Kickstarter, and I feel like other gamers really look down on me because of that.
I'm impressed. Well,
Like,
that's not true. I'll be impressed if you back two,
yeah, yeah, and be
and
that
that's it.
choosy. Yeah, yeah.
Like just
Well, because I will
two.
say it is true that I'm like, no, 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 I can't like break the seal. I can't like open those floodgates. I'm very like clear about no, I'm not going to do that because once I do it, now the dam is broken and I don't know when it'll stop.
Oh man! After I backed the first one, I was like, "Ooh, that's good. I'll back that. Back that." I was like,
Yeah,
"What
yeah.
am I going to do with all this?" Because the problem is, it'll be at least a year,
That's what I mean. Like I
and in
don't.
that year, you're like, "Oh, that looks good." And then suddenly, a year and a half, well, really 3 years later, 20 games show up. You're like, "What am I going to do with this stuff?"
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's for me, I will keep tabs on a Kickstarter games. I am aware of what's on Kickstarter, that sort of stuff, and I will pay attention, but I'm going to wait till it comes out.
Yeah, go back one, and we'll see.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, this time next month, you're gonna say, "I've backed 2,000 Kickstarters,"
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
but
Uh,
leave us. What are your words of gaming wisdom?
my words of gaming wisdom is don't ever forget that this hobby is supposed to be fun. Have fun and play the games that bring you joy. There you go.
Don't introduce people to too many bones their first time out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All
Have
right.
it's all about joy.
All right. Well, Grant Lyon, thank you for joining us today, everybody. If you found him entertaining, you found him intelligent sounding, you found his wisdom wise, check out the link in the description and you will find a link to his YouTube page and perhaps his website also. I assume you have to have a website,
I do.
place where you can buy his
GrantLyon.com.
album,
Yep.
maybe some body parts. I don't know if you're still selling that yet. And check out his stuff, subscribe, do all those things, and thank you all so very much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. But when you're a big time TV star, you have iPhone 12s.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's how they pay you.
Yeah, exactly. I got a whole stack of them. My Calixes are filling up with iPhone 12s.
Yeah, you just get empty boxes and you put it in front of it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
exactly.
it's just like the ultimate insult to performers right now. I'm sure you have
Yeah.
so much you have to do tonight. You're
All
like
right.
a poor man's Bob Barker there.
I've done a lot of Zoom comedy shows too.
Is that really weird for you because you can't hear anybody laughing?
Well, so the good Zoom comedy shows will ask a portion of people who are in quiet atmospheres to unmute themselves. Only once have I done a full show completely in silence, and it was because I got hired to do a corporate holiday party. And they don't have a lot of setup and stuff like that, right? They're like, thanks everybody for being here. We're this financial company, and now here's our comedian, Grant Lyon.
You
And
funny.
oh, it was a show for their clients, and a lot of their clients were older and so maybe not as well versed in Zoom and stuff. So I'm not exaggerating that while I'm trying to tell my first joke, there's a woman with her face right up on the camera going, I can't see the performer. Where is the performer? And I'm like, oh, I'm here. Can we spotlight my video here? And